kupanda hizo stairs ni giza tupu. Sasa hakuna vile upepo inaingia na jua hata uioni.
Even standing here, I still remember my friend, and it's so painful for me.
Building standards in the country have been compromised.
The liability does not even lie with the county.
This is an excuse by City Hall. City Hall has always failed. There's no doubt about it.
As per the 2009 National Housing and Population Census, the population of Nairobi was over 3.1 million people. This number seems to be on the rise as more people move to urban centers in search of greener pastures. As a result, more housing amenities have to be put up to meet this number of the citizenry. Kenya's Vision 2030 aims at transforming Kenya into a middle-income country by the year 2030. The social pillar of this vision seeks at providing a just and cohesive society in a clean and secure environment. Good housing is a major factor towards this. Tazama looks at the quality of housing in Nairobi to see if it's in line with this vision.
Mi nikimove kwa mpya, kitu ya kwanza naangalianga ni the outside appearance, because everything begins from the outside.
Hiyo hao lazima niangalie kama choo iko smart, kama kuna maji, alafu floor imetengenezwa aje, kama iko spacious. Unajua zingine zinakaa ndogo sana hata unashindwa uwezi toshea.
When I'm moving to a new house, I consider the rent, security and space, the interior decor.
These are the things most Kenyans consider before moving to a house. But did you know there are other important considerations you need to make? Apart from the occupation certificate, you should ensure the house has a lift if it goes beyond 4th floor. If in Nairobi, ensure the house is built on about 80% of the plot. The other 20% should be left as open space to provide lighting and ventilation to the building. This is not a consideration that many Kenyans make. This may be due to either ignorance or lack of information. To find out if a house is habitable, you need to ask for an occupation certificate.
Once a building has been put up, before it is occupied, the local authority in the area, whether it is Nairobi or wherever else, is expected to issue an occupation certificate to the owner of the building. Now, this is after inspecting that building and them being convinced or sure that it has been put up in a proper way.
It's around 12:45 p.m. and we're in Pipeline Estate. For you to go up this 7-story building, you can hardly see anything. Hence, you require a source of light. However, this law has not been observed, and especially in some of Nairobi's estates, as we find out. Here we speak to Evelyn Mora, a resident of this estate. Evelyn has chosen to be a tenant here as housing is relatively cheap and affordable for her. But this comes with several challenges, as she narrates.
Sasa hii nyumba ukiangalia kama sasa iko baridi, mtoto wangu anakohoa kila siku, kila wiki ni lazima ninunue madawa na pesa nazo ndio hizo hakuna. Mazingira si mazuri vile, ukiangalia hii nyumba tunaishi watu wengi, kuna wenye sasa tuseme kama hii nyumba yangu iko na simu hapo nje, hiyo simu kuna watu wanakuja wanamwaga maji machafu, sometimes unahisi harufu ndani ya nyumba, lakini hakuna vile utafanya juu hiyo nyumba sasa ndio uko na uwezo wa kuishi. Sasa hakuna vile otherwise.
Evelyn's child is below 5 years. The swamp outside her house is a breeding spot for mosquitoes. This worries her as malaria is the lead killer disease in kids under the age of 5 in Africa.
Nguo ukianika asikauki. Nguo ukianika kama hapa nje, sasa mimi venye naishi hapa second floor, nikifua nguo za mtoto leo nitaanua hapa ya siku 3, kama nguo ni nzito nitaanua after ya siku 4. Hakuna vile nguo utafua ikauke na siku moja.
Due to lack of lighting and sunlight in this place, clothes take time to dry. Worse still, people here have to cover their clothes with a polythene bag because the people living up also hang their clothes. So they put these polythene bags here to prevent water dripping from upstairs to their clothes.
When you go to some of those buildings and you find they are very, very dark as you enter, I think the reasons are obvious. First of all, it means that that building was not designed, for example, by somebody who is qualified.
A few meters in the same estate, we visit Wamboi Gathundo. She lives in an 8-story building and has to take the stairs to get to her bedsitter on the 6th floor. Other than the absence of a lift, the building lacks various basic safety requirements.
Na nimefunga dirisha na kamba kwa sababu nilikuja nikaingia kwa hii nyumba, sikupata zile vitu zinafunganga, nilipata kama zimetoka, sijawahi wekewa, vioo zimekuwa zikianguka, hazirudishwi.
These falling window panes are a disaster in waiting too. Accidentally, if a window pane falls and hits a passerby, this would cause them severe injuries or worse still, lead to death. People need to live dignified lives with no health hazards.
Zinaanguka sana ni kwa sababu hii nyumba haina balcony. Sasa wale wanaweka hizi vioo, wanawekeanga tu kwa nyumba. Sasa kama ni hapa, anaingizia mkono hapa, anaweka cement hapa na anazungusha. Sasa tunaona haiwezi shika vile nyumba ikiwa na balcony anaweza weka kama amesimama hapo.
Illegal constructions are put up by developers with greed for money. On average, a house in this estate costs about 6,000 Kenya shillings, with each flat consisting of about 60 units. In 1 month, a landlord makes about 360,000, which translates to over 4.3 million in 1 year. If the building regulations are followed to the letter, these are issues that tenants will not be facing. One of the basic requirements in construction is to have a site board. A site board contains names of all the consultants involved in the construction. This includes the architect, the developer, the engineer, the contractor, subcontractor, and the approval number. This is a requirement meant for public information so that, should anything happen, the public is aware of all those details. It's in this same estate that a building collapsed about 2 years ago, leading to the loss of lives. However, if such a case was to happen again, we would face challenges tracing the people involved. Despite the fact that a site board is a basic requirement for any form of construction, we managed to spot various ongoing projects that didn't have them. Despite allegations by City Hall that they have refused to approve any constructions in pipeline, several are still ongoing. Most of these have no signage, a clear indication that no inspection has been done.
It's evident that building standards in the country have been compromised even after several buildings have collapsed in the past. Human dignity, health, and living standards have been ignored too. I will be visiting City Hall to talk to the people tasked with checking to ensure that houses are good for human habitats.
People who are doing illegal developments are people who, at the onset, decided they are going to defy the law. So they would not put the board and do something else. The board you only put if you have gotten approval.
If you find a building which is coming up and you do not see that kind of signage, then it means City Hall is not doing its work.
Encroaching of service lanes such as road reserves and power is also evident here. What's more, a further walk in the estate reveals a more distressing image. Some people have pushed power lines further, ignorant of the danger it poses.
That day, my friend was sleeping at the house, and then at 2 in the morning, he felt that he wanted to come outside here and maybe have a fresh air. When he reached here, he felt like vomiting. He vomited, but it was like he went too far. He was about to fall here. So now he tried to, when he tried to come out of his place, it was impossible for him to stand. So I believe he clinched on these naked wires. That's where the accident happened. So he was electrocuted and he fell on this place.
any service lane is actually a right of way for any service. So any development that encroaches on a service lane is actually cannot even be redeemed. Yeah. If an enforcement is, if it is subjected to any enforcement action, it will have to give way to the service, but not the service giving way to the development.
These naked cables cover a stretch of about half a kilometer with buildings next to them. Despite Kenya Power promising to insulate these wires, they have remained naked since 2004.
Even standing here, I still remember my friend, and it's so painful for me. That's why I'm saying, if Kenya Power does that so soon, I'll be happy, man, knowing that I'll not lose another friend.
Truth is, building standards in the country have been compromised. We have lost lives in the past as buildings collapsed. The authorities in charge seem relaxed. Question is, how many more buildings have to collapse for the authorities in charge to take proper action?
Up to the moment, we are saying we have not been covering all the construction. Yeah? And that is because the internal capacity is limited. I think the liability does not even lie with the county, because in this country, everybody has accountability. The law is you have been given ownership rights, but the government has held back development rights. You cannot develop your property because you own it. At some point, judiciary would be able to understand that when you give an injunction and you are not able to supervise what goes on in the ground, who are you strengthening? You are actually strengthening the hand of the violator, because the violator will use that order to continue constructing.
They are allowed under the law to monitor any development which is ongoing. If someone comes up and says, our hands are tied, because the developers would come up and put up a different structure other than what is there, I think that is an excuse.
When you give a Kenyan an injunction, you injunct a county, does it mean that you have actually waived the provisions of law? That these persons now should continue to violate it? A Kenyan translate like that the law is suspended, and he goes on constructing. The county should not be injuncted at all when you are dealing with safety of citizens. It is an area that at all costs the judiciary should resist protecting violators.
This is an excuse by City Hall.
To deal with illegalities in the construction industry, the National Construction Authority was established in 2011. Any contractor undertaking construction should be registered with this authority. As of now, the authority has registered about 25,000 contractors.
We have got also another mandate of registering skilled workers, as I told you, which we are rolling out, and we're going to give IDs to every skilled construction worker in this country. And so if you're found engaging in construction and you don't have that, then it's a crime punishable by law. The penalties are hefty, and they're actually prescribed in the Act. You could face up to 3 years in prison, or you could pay a fine of not more than 1 million shillings. The public should be aware that whatever is coming around you is part of your environment, and you have a say. So you have a say, you have a right to inform the National Construction Authority of any construction activity you see. It could be a road, it could be a water project, it could be a building, it could be an extension. Then NCA will be able to move in and ascertain that the basics have been adhered to.
If the process of getting approvals is made less costly, is made convenient, is made, then I believe a lot of developers would not fear going to seek those approvals, and we would end up with a much better environment.
We are here to help contractors, but they must play by the rules, and they must follow the laid down procedures, the laws, and the professional practice.
The persons who are in charge of supervision, policing construction, they must be able to be competent, they must be able to be efficient, so that they can be able to monitor and establish what buildings are being put where, and if so, whether those buildings have been given the requisite approval. And if the approval has been given, whether the construction is as per the work plan which was approved by City Hall.
Having lost lives in the past in illegal constructions, the blame game is not a solution. We can only hope that City Hall and the National Construction Authority take responsibility and restore sanity in the industry.